Hello and welcome to this podcast. This has been produced by APMG International on behalf of the London Digital Security Centre, the LDSC. My name's Andy Taylor. I'm a cybersecurity consultant and assessor working with APMG International, looking after their cybersecurity portfolio. This podcast is about ensuring you have good security credentials, both as an organisation and as an individual, and perhaps helping you along that track. There's an increasing need for any organisation, be it large or small, to be able to prove that they look after the information shared with them, to prove their security credentials. This information may come from somewhere in their supply chain, either above them or indeed below them, from a customer, or indeed from some other body such as a regulatory authority. In all cases, the need to look after the information, particularly personal and sensitive information, to look after it appropriately is paramount. The supply chain, in particular for the government, is increasingly becoming driven by those who can demonstrate that they are taking security seriously. Even the general public, notoriously lax at security in general in their own activities, are beginning to care much more about commercial and government organisations losing their information, especially sensitive personal information. When TalkTalk lost a significant number of records, the move away from the company by their clients was significant. A strong reputation takes a lifetime to build, but it can now be lost in an instant, indeed with a click of a mouse. But proving an organisation is doing the right things is not simple, because the threats are great and ever-changing. However, some of the hard work has been done on behalf of UK companies by GCHQ in Cheltenham and its partner organisation, the National Cybersecurity Centre, or NCSC. NCSC has determined what are the most likely internet-enabled threats facing every organisation in the UK. They've then considered which are the security measures that will defend against these threats to an acceptable level. The end result of this work is the Cyber Essentials scheme, run by the NCSC and available through the LDSC from accreditation bodies, of which APMG is one. Cyber Essentials, as the name suggests, is not the most complicated or sophisticated method of protecting data, nor is it the final answer. It is not a silver bullet. What it is, though, is the start of a way of working for any organisation that allows them to continue to do business whilst ensuring an acceptable level of security is in place to protect critical assets and information. The measures required by Cyber Essentials are small in number, indeed just 5, and should be fairly straightforward to do without any significant additional outlay or expensive IT or security advice. These 5 controls are considered appropriate to protect most standard systems against about 80% of the standard attacks launched by criminals and casual attackers using the internet. In the words of Dr. Ian Levy, the Technical Director of NCSC, we wish to protect the majority of the people from the majority of the harm, from the majority of the attacks, for the majority of the time. Cyber Essentials does that to a large degree, and it's hoped that every organisation, large, medium, small or micro, will gain the Cyber Essentials certification. To gain that certification is fairly straightforward. To use the APMG application process set up for the LDSC members, there's a link from the LDSC webpage that gives access to the APMG site and all the relevant information, the application questionnaire, and indeed also some free videos on how to complete the questionnaire. The questions ask about how certain aspects of the computer systems used by the business are set up and run. The 5 different control areas are: firstly, patch management, the ongoing task required to maintain the security of all the software in use. This is usually simply a case of ensuring the automatic patching notifications provided for most commercial software are enabled and acted upon regularly. Secondly, malware protection. ensuring there is an appropriate type and level of protection against internet-borne viruses and other malicious software. Again, normal commercial software is all that's required, provided it's updated routinely and usually automatically. Thirdly, user access controls, and this checks that only those with a need to have administrative accounts on the system actually do have them, and that those accounts are used for the right purposes and not general day-to-day web surfing, for example. Secure configuration is at number 4, ensuring that the way the various devices in use, be they desktop computers, tablets, laptops, smartphones, or indeed any other device, are configured correctly so as not to allow unauthorized access to the system. This helps to enforce the defences against the principle of the weakest link in the chain being the one that causes a failure in the defences overall. And finally, lastly, but by no means least, boundary firewalls and internet gateways. This control makes sure that these devices that are the link between the internal computer system containing all the important information and the big wide nasty world of the internet are set up to stop as much unauthorized access as possible. Now this may take a little more specialist knowledge to complete, but in general should be covered by the internet service provider who should be doing the right things. So once this questionnaire has been completed, it's submitted with a fixed fee to the assessor employed by one of the certification bodies APMG uses to carry out the assessment. The choice of certification body is down to the applicant and could be based on prior knowledge, locality, or indeed any other factor that's deemed relevant. The chosen assessor will then review the answers given and will contact the applicant to talk through their answers. This conversation serves two main purposes. Firstly, it allows the assessor to ensure that the answers given are appropriate and can be validated as correct. And secondly, it allows the assessor to delve a little deeper into areas where perhaps the information given is unclear, lacking in some way, or perhaps not quite the answer expected in terms of the security standard required. The assessor will discuss with the applicant all the questions, and once he's happy, or she is happy, they will then pass the completed application to a second assessor to ensure that nothing has been missed or has inadvertently been passed as correct when it isn't. If the second assessor is content, then the application will be recommended for approval and sent to APMG for the final and third check, a totally independent check of the process and the information that's been provided. Assuming that goes okay, APMG will then award the Cyber Essentials certificate. The certificate will be valid for a year, but it's vital this isn't seen as a fait accompli and that all necessary measures have been taken to maintain security. Having passed Cyber Essentials, it's critical that the organisation continues to check and update, patch and review all the relevant areas, and to continue the safe and secure operation of the information system in use. Now, should a more robust assessment be required for Cyber Essentials, then the applicant can apply for the Cyber Essentials Plus certification, having gained the initial Cyber Essentials certification already. This is more advanced assessment of the application and involves the use of a vulnerability assessment toolset to ensure that the system is genuinely secure. Commonly called penetration testing or pen testing, an assessor will scan the system being assessed from outside and from inside the organisation to ensure that there are no back doors left open to provide an attacker with unauthorised access. This provides a higher level of assurance, being both technical and checking on the actual situation rather than what the organisation believes to be the case. It's still the same set test as Cyber Essentials though, only looking for the basic 5 cyber controls to be in operation across the organisation, defending against 80% of the most common attacks perpetrated from the internet. As far as smaller and micro companies are concerned, this may well be good enough evidence to show that those in their supply chain that they are taking cybersecurity seriously. Larger organisations may well be taking additional measures, but it's well recognised that small companies don't have either the resource or the technical ability to do more than these basic measures. Several UK government departments, however, are now using the Cyber Essentials scheme as a way of ensuring their suppliers, both large and small, are doing the basics before awarding them government contracts. Now, people in smaller companies might be wondering why they have to undertake these measures when actually they are possibly too small to be considered a target and often don't have any significant assets worth the criminal's time and effort. One of the problems today is the interconnectivity of all the electronic systems now used in commerce. Ordering might be electronic. Delivery notes and invoices are delivered electronically, and in some more advanced e-commerce situations, even small companies have their IT system directly linked to the larger players in the supply chain to facilitate just-in-time or some similar logistical system. In all these cases, the smaller players must not become the easy way in to defeat the larger organisations' more sophisticated and effective security measures. It's back to the weakest link in the chain. Now, spoofing is now a very well-established way for the criminal to gain money or other assets. It may be that they send fraudulent invoices asking them to be paid into a new account, or they just gather information about who works in the finance office or the accounts department, or perhaps the name and email of the CEO or finance director of a larger organisation. This means that checking the credentials of those calling, of the emails that seem a little unusual, or especially where money is required to be moved urgently, is of critical importance if businesses are to remain secure. Emails purporting to come from, for example, the chief finance officer of the organisation asking a new junior member of the accounts department in that organisation to make an immediate payment to a well-established supplier but with a different fraudulent bank account are now a frequent occurrence. There have been reports of many thousands of pounds being lost, and rarely is it possible to retrieve the lost cash. In one case recently, £3 million was looted by criminals by simply telephoning a smaller company and offering to help sort out a problem with their online banking system. Whilst it's very easy to sit back and say, that will never happen to me in my organisation, unfortunately the evidence is far less convincing, with people who really should know how to do things securely losing money from very plausible and convincing scams. The measures taken to achieve Cyber Essentials are a good step in the right direction, but then they need to be supported by appropriate processes and controls that are far more old-fashioned if the business is really to be secure. For example, having a two-person rule for major financial transactions, a process that requires two people to check it before signing it off, may take extra time and seem overly bureaucratic, but it is essential if frauds and scams are not to loot the business. Checking the people who ask for money, send invoices, ask for access to IT systems, or any one of 100 other similar requests is vital. The credentials must be proven beyond any reasonable doubt, and all good organisations will appreciate the care being taken, even if it means there is a slight delay in payment or an extra phone call is made to check the authenticity of a request. So please check your security credentials of the organisation by taking out Cyber Essentials, and ensure that your staff check the credentials of people who contact them through whatever means. That's the end of this podcast. I hope you found it helpful and useful, and if you have any questions then please feel free to come to APMG International or indeed to the London Digital Security Centre, and I'm sure we'll be able to help you with further advice. Thanks for listening. Bye.